Most people who exercise are either doing too little to see real results, or training in a pattern that actually works against them. The science of what an ideal weekly routine looks like is well established, but it contradicts almost everything popular fitness culture tells you. It's simpler than you think, and more precise than most people ever apply. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. A study published in The Lancet followed over 400,000 people and found that just 15 minutes of moderate exercise per day reduced all-cause mortality by 14% and extended life expectancy by 3 years. But, and this is crucial, those benefits plateaued and then declined with excessive training. Volume and variety matter as much as consistency. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. In this video, we are going to see what the current sports science consensus says about the ideal weekly exercise structure, the right balance of cardio, resistance training, and recovery, and why most common approaches miss one or more critical components. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups. The first misconception: more is always better. This is the idea that drives overtraining and injury in millions of people. Research in sports physiology is clear. Muscle growth and cardiovascular adaptation happen during rest, not during exercise. Exercise is the stimulus. Recovery is where the adaptation occurs. Without adequate rest, you're applying stimulus with no adaptation window. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The second misconception: cardio and strength training conflict with each other. Many people choose one or the other, afraid that mixing them will cancel benefits. The American College of Sports Medicine reviewed decades of research and concluded the opposite. Combining both produces superior health outcomes compared to either alone, and neither cancels the other when programmed correctly. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The third and most dangerous misconception: intensity replaces frequency. People who train intensely 2 days per week and skip the rest assume they covered. But research on muscle protein synthesis shows that the anabolic window, the period of elevated muscle repair, lasts 24 to 48 hours per muscle group. Training each muscle group only once per week leaves 5 to 6 days of missed opportunity per cycle. The ACSM's comprehensive position stand, based on decades of controlled research, establishes clear guidelines for a complete weekly training program. These are not minimums for athletes. These are the scientifically validated minimums for significant health improvement and body composition change in the general adult population. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups. Here's the resistance training frequency finding that reshapes how most people should think about their routine. A meta-analysis in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research found that training each muscle group twice per week produced significantly greater gains in hypertrophy than once per week, even when total weekly volume was equated. Frequency matters more than most people realize. When researchers analyze the components of a well-rounded weekly routine, they break exercise into 5 categories, each providing distinct physiological benefits. A complete program addresses all 5. Most people address only 2 or 3, and wonder why their results plateau. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups. The physiology of each training type explains why all are necessary. Resistance training builds muscle and bone. Zone 2 cardio builds the aerobic base and trains fat oxidation. High-intensity intervals improve VO2 max, one of the strongest predictors of longevity in research. Mobility prevents injury and maintains function. Active recovery accelerates tissue repair and reduces cortisol. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The ideal weekly structure that emerges from the research is elegant in its simplicity. It balances stimulus and recovery across all 5 modalities. It fits within a normal schedule. And it produces measurable results in every dimension: strength, cardiovascular health, body composition, and longevity markers. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups. Research on training adaptations shows a predictable progression when a complete, structured routine is followed consistently. The timeline helps set realistic expectations and prevents the frustration that causes most people to quit before results appear. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups. The evidence here is robust, replicated, and directly relevant to your daily health choices. The most important thing about implementing the ideal routine is starting where you actually are, not where you think you should be. Research on exercise adherence shows that starting too aggressively is the primary reason people quit. The structure matters more than the intensity in the first 30 days. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Different starting points need different entry strategies. The research supports starting wherever you are and building progressively. What matters is the pattern, not the starting load. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups. The evidence here is robust, replicated, and directly relevant to your daily health choices. The research on optimal exercise structure is well settled. The ideal weekly routine combines resistance training twice per muscle group, zone 2 cardio, occasional high-intensity intervals, mobility work, and full rest. It's not complicated, but most people are missing at least 2 of these components. And those missing pieces are exactly what limits their results. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Your body responds to structure, not intensity alone. Not one type of exercise. Not grinding without recovery. The science has a very clear answer about what a complete week of training looks like. And when you give your body all 5 components, the results speak for themselves. If today's video helped clarify something, share it with someone who needs it. Most people never see research summarize this clearly. That's exactly what this channel is here to do.